Good morning guys. What I want to do today is introduce to you the newest project vehicle on the channel, a Gen 1 Coyote 6R80 Mustang. That's right, I actually went ahead and bought an automatic Mustang out of all things. Now what I'm going to do in this series, or this build series, is hopefully line out what is one of the more underrated combos that there is out there. A lot of people are buying S550 Mustangs, Gen 2, Gen 3, GT350s, and they're drag racing them, and you know, they're having good success. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, one of the most underrated chassis and cars in the Coyote game is the Gen 1 Mustang. A lot of people immediately dismiss it because of the, let's just say, less robust engine, even though as long as you give it boost and the rods stay inside of the block, it's going to make good power. So what I want to do is give you a rundown as to this vehicle, what the price was, the lining out of the future projects, give you kind of like a rundown of what to expect out of a $20,000 vehicle. Guys, this was exactly $20,000. I found it in South Carolina, absolutely no mods, no nothing. The problem with Gen 1 Mustangs is when you find one, they're usually clapped out, they're usually pretty jacked up, there's plasti dip everywhere, and it's not a desirable vehicle to work with. But this one, luckily, I found in South Carolina after a lot of searching. I did want a 14 Ruby Red, but good luck finding that under $25,000 and unmodified. It's very, very rare, but I did find one, and I think this is called Sterling Silver or Sterling Gray. I'm not 100% sure. You guys will let me know because you guys love to tell me I'm wrong. But let's just kind of give you a rundown of the vehicle, the pros and cons of what a $20,000, 70,000 mile Gen 1 Coyote looks like. And then we'll talk about future mods for the project and the goals for this S197 2013 6R80 Mustang. Okay, so let's give this thing a proper rundown. It is a 2013 70,000 mile Coyote Mustang, unmodified, no mods ever done to it from what I can tell. Obviously, because it does have 73,000 miles, it's gonna have some wear and tear, but this is a very good example of what the market is like and on these cars. It's actually pretty strong if you know what you're looking for. Luckily, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted a car that had no modifications, nothing wrong with it, just something I can start from scratch with. And the goals are basically to build a copy of Donnie Renfro's old Mustang. A lot of you that follow me remember that I cut my teeth on 6R80 stuff back when I worked for VMP, and then the beginning of the second stint over at Lund Racing. So you're gonna look at a couple of things and get confused. Number one, yes, this is a factory option Brembo car. Now, a lot of you guys thought, well, I thought that only came on manual Mustangs. No, you had the option of checking off a couple of boxes, and yes, you can go ahead and get yourself a set of Brembo wheels that, in my opinion, for S197 Mustangs, aside from maybe the Boss 302, these are the best wheels out there. They're 19 by 9.5, if I'm not mistaken, or 19 by 9 at least. They have pretty beefy rubber. The problem with that is it is on the twitchy side because the suspension is soft on these cars. Let's just say their handling characteristics are good enough, meaning Ford had to balance performance with comfort, and I think they did a decent job. Obviously, the live rear axle doesn't necessarily lend itself to corner carving, but for what it is, it's great. Brembo, 6-piston fronts, big discs, good size rubber, nice 19 by 9 wheels, so you can't really fault them for that. Now, this is a premium Mustang. What does that mean? It means it has the leather and the better speakers, the bigger, I don't know if it's a 401A package, but I was able to pick up a car that, I mean, guys, look at the interior. You know, and I know what most S197s look like. They look trashy. They put a bunch of dumb stuff all over the dash, and this car has absolutely nothing minus some wear and tear. As a matter of fact, a couple of you guys pointed out the fact that the buttons are still, you know, on the white side. You can still see the lettering and the volume, the you know, Bluetooth audio activation. All of the controls on the steering wheel still have, you know, the lettering on them very clearly, and the stitching is still white on the seats. If you look at the stitching on the seats, it's still pretty darn good. From what I can tell, there weren't a lot of burnouts done in this car. If you look at inside of the wheel well, there doesn't seem to be a bunch of rubber coked up in there. It actually looks pretty good. To be honest with you, I think this car sat a lot, because the more I look at it, the more it seems like the car sat a very long time, based on some of the, let's just say, moldy areas, especially around the trunk strut area. It just probably sat outside for a little bit, or it was in a garage that was kind of musty, because it doesn't necessarily smell great. But it's got great rubber, no curb rash on the wheels, so you know, everything seems to be in order. So let's look at what the issues are with the car, because I'm not afraid of talking about the issues. So at one point or another, this car must have had a brawl, because you have to look at it really closely and from certain angles. There seems to be some discoloration. Obviously this splatter here, I don't know what the heck happened with here, but in the front, it looks like, let's just say it's more opaque. You can actually run your hands through it and notice that it gets better here. Actually, right here, the clear coat is nice and thick. And then when you get here, it's really slippery, meaning the clear coat is very, very thin. And I think it's down to the paint, and it unfortunately kind of wore in a little bit, but I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but it's on the flat side here, and up here is super, super shiny. Also, right by the hood vent, there seems to be some kind of wear area right here, and it seems like, I don't know if it's sun or whatever. Before did have a bit of an issue with these aluminum hoods. Yes, the hoods are aluminum, and the paint either didn't stick or the clear coat wasn't all that great. But obviously right here, there's a good size area where the paint isn't really you know, shining very nicely. Also, little spots here and there, little like paint splatters. I don't know what they were doing. Maybe it looks like plasti dip, who knows. But again, passenger side looking really good. I mean, these speakers are actually really good. The Bluetooth system sounds excellent. The dash isn't jacked up. All this isn't scratched. Everything looks to be in order. It actually looks pretty darn good. It just kind of smells kind of musty, so it's probably a good idea to get in there and start cleaning it out. Again, the stitching on the seats is very, very good. Still very, very white. On the other seat, unfortunately, it looks like the panel that's me. Don't worry, I'll pick that up. The panel, this guy right here, not sure what happened. Looks like it came undone, and they did the zip tie fix, so that's pretty baller. But otherwise, pretty good. As you can tell, this car does have ambient lighting. For those of you that know what a my color spec situation is, this thing has ambient lighting, so you can turn the ambient lighting from purple, blue, red, orange, you name it. You can change all the colors in the rainbow. I'm just going to keep it on the blue side. Now, very common, the deck lid. That's right, this deck lid has seen better days. Look, that's right, it has seen better days. It is faded, it is done, it is gone, party's over. This guy is absolutely smoked, but the trunk area looks really good. Someone didn't jack it up and do a homeboy boombox in there. This area, usually on S197s, is super scratched up from all the crap that we take in and out. This one looks to have a couple small scratches, but overall, it's pretty good. And this is what I was talking about when it comes to like storage. This car looks like it just sat somewhere, and it had just a bunch of gook. I don't know if it just kind of sat outside or whatever, and then someone said, hey, let's clean it up and take it to a dealership and trade it in on something. But it is a 2-owner vehicle, and again, this is all usually the funniest thing on S197s, that if you do get stuck in the trunk, you pull on this guy and it shows that a little man can pop out and, you know, get out of the trunk in case you're you know, you're about to sleep with the fishes. You can open that up and get out of that situation. Now for the engine bay, for those of you that really appreciate simplicity in modern cars, and again, when it comes to modern cars, it does not get much more simpler than the Gen 1 engine bay. Very, very easy. And as you can tell, it does have the strut brace. So a lot of you go, maybe this was a performance package option Mustang. I don't know about that because the springs feel kind of soft to me. It's not a quote unquote tuned enough suspension to make it seem like a track pack. And I think it has the regular differential, not the torsion. Track packs would have the torsion. But let's talk about the simplicity of this engine. A lot of you, especially people that are used to push rod stuff, get scared. You see a lot of doohickeys and a bunch of stuff and you, oh my God, this is too busy. Guys, for modern cars, this guy is cake. This is interesting. I wonder if anyone spliced into here and had a trans brake and a turbo kit. But to be honest with you, the loom, the way the harness is pinched everywhere, looks factory spec to me. Again, guys, this thing must have sat because it does have a decent amount of gook in some of the corners. So of course I'll be taking it to the Palm Beach detailing boy Joey, and I'll say, hey, clean this sucker up. I want this bitch clean, because honestly I want this project to reflect what you would do at home with a car. Maybe this is your only car or your only toy, so I want to do right by it. This is a sound tube, so Ford from the factory pumped in sound from the cold air. You can see how small this cold air is. That's why these cars definitely benefit from a cold air upgrade. But again, the hard part is keeping it sealed. And yes, in Florida, the IATs do get slightly on the high side. And the hood vents, remember we talked about the hood vents being an issue? That's right, the hood vents actually caused issues on cars that have an open air element, cold air, that sits right here, especially with these hood vents. When it rains or you wash your car, that water can get into the filter area and that can be an issue. But of course, this car is going to basically have slight bolt-ons. I'm not going to go super crazy with it because I am setting it up for boost. So let's talk about the goals ultimately for this Gen 1 6R80 Mustang. All right, so let's talk about goals. What are the goals for this Mustang? Well, again, I want to build it as if you were building it at home and this was like your one and only toy. And yes, do I want to stick twin turbos in it, bullhorn it, and copy the Grey Goose and go 670s? No, like not at all. I want nothing to do with that life. I want to be able to drive this thing anywhere at any time. So initially what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install the cold air. We're going to eventually install freer flowing exhaust via ultimate header. The cold air is obviously going to be a PMAS cold air intake. That is the cold air intake of this channel, period. There is no other intake, in my opinion, that matters. We're probably going to install a torque converter. We're doing some suspension mods, but I think a bolt-on Mustang can go 11.7, 11.60s, a Gen 1 Mustang, without much of an issue. Now, eventually it will be on the 85. We'll do all that tuning, but right off the rip, the next video, it's probably going to be what to look out for on a bone stock Mustang. We're going to data log it on the fuel that's in it, and I suspect that the dealer filled up with 87 octane, and it is very apparent that it is on 87 octane or 89 octane. Why? When I get on it, I audibly hear detonation. It goes downshifting, upshifting, and I'm like, this is probably a good data logging video. So I'm down to about 3/4 of a tank now. I'm going to drive it a lot, get it down to about a quarter, do some data logging, and then once I show you the data logs of what the knock sensors are doing on the stock tune, this is on the bone stock tune, it shifts at 6,700 RPMs at wide open throttle. I'm going to go ahead and then install or fill up with 93 octane, get 93 octane from a Shell or a BP, drive it a little bit so it mixes properly, then data log that and show you the differences in spark and knock sensor readings, bone stock. And then eventually I'll tune it and do a whole bunch of other things to basically get as much content I can out of this guy before we really start throwing mods in it. And it'll give you kind of a guideline what to look out for if you decide to step into the Coyote market and buy yourself one of the better looking, let's just say retro, modern Fox body feeling Mustangs there is out there. Solid rear axle, good transmission, robust. The motor can take about 750 wheel without much of an issue. The trans is fine up until that power level. So not much has to be done to get this car into the 9s except boost and good quality fuel. So be on the lookout for all of the upcoming videos on the latest project, and we're also gonna have to name the project. So I'll probably put up a poll soon. We'll name the project. I was thinking Donnie or Jean Gray, similar to what the red car was, but this car is actually gray. And then you guys can come up with your own names, and then we'll put it up to a vote. But be on the lookout for a ton of content on this 2013 6R80 Mustang. The goal is to be in the 9s boosted, but for now we'll get you a bunch of data logging tutorials, bolt-on parts, you name it. Be on the lookout for a bunch of content on this channel. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.